So imagine moving in with the squatter, brushing your teeth beside them in the bathroom, cooking on the same stove, just irritating them as much as you can because they're brazen enough to break into your home and try to claim this property as theirs, and you in turn meet their crazy with crazy, and you're ultimately and literally living beside them, and you're blowing up an air mattress and you're popping popcorn watching Netflix, and you're trying to make it as uncomfortable for them as possible, where unfortunately in comparison to how uncomfortable they made it for you financially and criminally, unfortunately you can't return the type of disrespect that they've given you by squatting in your property, but at the very least you can try your best at giving them a little taste of their own medicine. What's going on, folks? Eddie Carrington, mayor of Flux City, and today we are reacting to a video that highlights something that a homeowner ended up needing to do in order to get an alleged squatter out of a property that they were trying to sell. They literally moved in with the squatter, which is insane, but kind of understandable. You have to take drastic measures as a landlord or a property owner, especially when your investment comes across threats such as this particular example that we're going to be talking about today. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend this approach, but I understand. So let's get into it.
Chicago man says he did the unthinkable when he discovered alleged squatters in his property. He decided to move in with them. Marco Velasquez is the owner of this Southside property, which is on the market to be sold. He says his realtor came by with a potential buyer, but there was already people inside.
Imagine this. Your realtor, after putting this property on the market, putting a sign in the yard, which is possibly how these alleged squatters came across this potential opportunity as they see it. They may have saw this property online or saw the sign in the yard, and they in turn said, okay, that's our next target. And ultimately, this is unfortunate because this individual is trying to sell their property. And imagine you have a potential buyer that is stopping by with the realtor, and they're like, wait a minute, somebody's living in here. There's no furniture in here, but there's food on the counter. There are bags, garbage bags scattered throughout this house. They are yelling at us for trying to gain access to this property that is listed for sale. And so these squatters are trying to say that they're either leasing or they own this property. And that in turn can't fare well for this potential buyer who is interested in this property. And therefore that scares away that opportunity. Insane.
It was like a nightmare.
Velasquez says a woman named Charmaine and her boyfriend Codero moved in, claiming they recently purchased the property. He says the couple showed police this mortgage document.
So these alleged squatters are saying that they bought this house, and they even have a document that says that they purchased it for the amount of, it looks like $145,000.
Cook County confirms they don't see this mortgage on record.
So that was a forged document. So that is something that they in turn created to make it seem like they have rights in this property. And this happens a lot. Unfortunately, this is bigger than just this one incident. The system is failing across the country, especially when we're talking about cities that have a little bit more of a soft spot for the tenants, which is understandable. However, the tenant-friendly cities really make it hard for landlords and property owners to get people such as what we're witnessing here out of our properties. It could take months or even years in some scenarios to get people who are saying that they're rightfully in this property, and in order to go through the due process and get the lawyer involved, spend thousands of dollars as a landlord slash owner, only to find yourself roughly a year from when you started this process gaining back the property, but in much worse condition. You're in more debt because you're still paying a mortgage on this property, but they're not paying rent.
Velasquez's realtor recorded this video as the couple explained to police they had a right to be there.
Y'all bogus right now. I listen, bro.
He says
So they got the nerve to be lying through their teeth, allegedly, saying that they got the right to be in this home. There should be bigger penalties with regard to individuals taking advantage of property owners in this format.
police told them under Illinois' current law, they couldn't remove anyone.
I said I'm not moving out, and I said at one point they gotta leave. They gotta get tired of us being in the property. I called a couple of friends, stay overnight, and I knew they were not gonna like that.
Kudos to this homeowner. He has a Cabela's hat on, so I'm assuming he's familiar with firearms. That's just an assumption, but at the end of the day, he took a drastic stance when it comes to these tenants or these alleged squatters moving into his property by literally moving in with them. So imagine moving in with the squatter, brushing your teeth beside them in the bathroom, cooking on the same stove, just irritating them as much as you can because they're brazen enough to break into your home and try to claim this property is theirs, and you in turn meet their crazy with crazy, and you're ultimately and literally living beside them, and you're blowing up an air mattress and you're popping popcorn watching Netflix, and you're trying to make it as uncomfortable for them as possible, where unfortunately in comparison to how uncomfortable they made it for you financially and criminally, unfortunately you can't return the type of disrespect that they've given you by squatting in your property, but at the very least you can try your best at giving them a little taste of their own medicine.
So you're telling me that you and your friends came in and moved in with them?
Yes.
Flat out.
Velasquez says he, his wife, and their friends got a few air mattresses and spent the night with the alleged squatters.
We stayed in the living room. We were watching all the time the door. They stayed in one of the bedrooms.
The next morning, he says he realized they were not budging.
They're like, oh, well, we want $8,000.
$8,000 to get out of my own home, the property that I purchased, I'm paying a mortgage on, I lived in, I'm trying to sell. Let's say this individual is trying to get a bigger property, so they moved out of this smaller home to in turn move into a larger property, but they need this property to sell because now they may be paying 2 mortgages, and yet you have these squatters allegedly squatting in your property and making it harder for you as a homeowner to sell this house, but yet now you're demanding $8,000? Are you insane?
Velasquez says they negotiated. He had the couple sign a cash for key agreement, and he paid them $4,300 to.
That's extortion. That is extortion. How is it possible for this to be the only option or one of the few options that this homeowner has in order to get these alleged squatters out of their home without causing too much more damage to their livelihood, their lives, their financial scenario? You had to literally pay this group of folks $4,300 to get out of your own home. And therefore, this is one of the reasons why the system is a bit broken in these tenant leaning cities that need to put more emphasis on punishing this type of behavior in order to keep the neighborhood intact.
We wouldn't want to give them money, but we heard really bad stories about squatters taking over properties
Unbelievable.
6, 8, 10 months, even a year.
So imagine paying a mortgage for up to a year, and these individuals are staying in your property, not paying you anything, damaging it, making it worse, and having a sense of entitlement even based off of how the law protects them. And when they finally move out, they do even more damage to your property. They potentially bust windows, they flush things down the toilet, they leave the water running. And so these are the types of realistic outcomes and scenarios that happen across the country. And so we need stronger laws to protect homeowners and landlords to avoid these types of outcomes.
Weeks later, a CPD detective called them, informing them that one of the alleged squatters is the same woman accused of squatting in Marcia and Carlton Lee's home after leaving his property. In the Lee's case, Shermaine Powell Gillard was arrested and charged with burglary.
So this isn't their first time. This is the exact reason why these penalties and the punishment for this type of crime should be a little heightened, because for whatever reason, these criminals are emboldened based off of the assistance that they have with the legal system being tenants. And the entitlement of these folks are just outrageous. Therefore, what could we do in order to better protect landlords and homeowners from this type of behavior? If this person continuously does this over and over again, what's going to make them stop from doing it to another homeowner?
Forgery, obstructing identification, and criminal residential trespassing.
I don't know about you, but if I gotta pay $4,300 for somebody to leave my own home, that's a level of disrespect that I don't have a line item for, right? I don't have a budget line item for that, and I don't know how I would respond to that level of disrespect. But there could be scenarios where this happens. I have a tenant or a past tenant that fell behind on their rent, and we gave them a payment plan. Ultimately, they were around $7,000 in past due rent before we ultimately evicted them. And when we evicted this individual, what do? They steal my washer and dryer in the process. The entitlement is insane with some of these folks. This is just disrespectful, man. I really do hope that the system does better in order for us as landlords and homeowners to better protect ourselves from this type of activity. So that's enough rambling for today. What would you have done if you came to a home that you're selling, that you own, and you find a squatter in this property, and it may take up to a year to get these folks out? Would you pay them to get out? Would you move in with them? I know that's a bit more of a drastic stance, but sometimes you got to meet crazy with crazy. Make sure you comment below, share your thoughts. I would love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next video.